Hello, I'm Gavin Horgan, headmaster of Millfield School in Somerset, the largest co-educational boarding school in the UK. Welcome to the Millfield Way Podcast. Here, you'll hear from teachers, coaches and students from Millfield and Millfield Prep School. Millfield is traditionally different, and this is the Millfield Way.
And I remember one of the evenings, left the pool, and I remember walking home in the rain rather than getting the bus with the team. I walked back to the hotel in the rain on the phone to my mum in tears, because I was like, am I done? Have I reached my peak? Is this me in the sport? Is this me finished?
Welcome everyone to the Millfield Sports Podcast. I'm your host Adam Graham, and today we have a very special guest lined up for you. He's a world champion, Olympic champion, European champion, you name it, he's probably done it. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome Matthew Richards. Matthew, thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me.
All good, how have you been?
Yeah, very good mate, very good. As I was saying to you earlier on, I just got out of the gym in the pool, so I might be a bit sweaty in this interview, so
that's
I apologise to all the viewers for that.
That's not an issue at all. Yeah. Obviously, you very recently just got your call up for Team GB, second Olympics. How does that feel?
Yeah, it's pretty special. Obviously to be able to officially say that I'm going to my second games is really exciting. Being able to go at quite a young age for Tokyo 21 was amazing and really sort of useful for my development in the sport. But being 21 now, going to the Olympics, as defending world champion is pretty exciting. There's definitely a bit of pressure that comes with that, but I welcome that. I'm looking forward to it. So yeah, just excited to get out there.
Absolutely, and to achieve what you've already done at just 21 is pretty insane. Still got a long way to go, obviously, if you choose. Just wanted to quickly reflect on Olympic trials in London. I thought it was a great event in general, but you in particular qualified for the 50, 100 and 200. Just talk me through a bit, were you happy with how it went, satisfied, favourite race, that sort of stuff?
Yeah, I was happy, yeah. I mean, the job going into it obviously was to try and qualify all three, and I ticked that box. So essentially the job was done. I'd have liked to have been a bit faster on some of them, but I think we were going into those races with the priority to win, and it's easy to get wrapped up in chasing times and wanting to go a certain time for the world rankings or whatever it is. But I think fundamentally the job is to go in the race and win it, and we got that done. And so preparing for the summer, the freestyle depth we have in Britain in the men's side now is comparable to that of a world final. So it's good experience, good practice for getting ready for the summer. Favourite race, I'd probably say the 2-3, just because it's so tight. It was a great race. But I said before the 100 free, I think the call room before that 100 free final was the most tense call room I've ever been in my career. Which is saying something, because I've been able to go in Olympic call rooms, Olympic finals, whatever. But yeah, that was pretty intense. So that was good fun as well.
Yeah, that must be interesting, because those guys are your competitors, you're going up against them, but they're also your teammates once you get to those international sort of teams. So it's a bit of a weird dynamic, surely, because 1 minute they're your teammate, next you're trying to beat them. And then I suppose Olympic trials, as you said, it's more about just getting your hand on the wall first and qualifying rather than the times themselves, although they were still very quick. So yeah, and do you know roughly what you're going to do yet at the Olympics, or is that classified? Because obviously you've got the 3 individuals and you've probably got a bunch of relay opportunities. Are you still sort of working that out?
Yeah, it's quite a complicated and long drawn out process. It ends up being quite political all the time, but yeah, I mean, nothing's confirmed just yet, but I'd definitely like to be swimming all 3 individuals, and obviously the 4x1, 4x2 and 4x1 medley. So if I have my say, then I'll be swimming 6 different events, which will obviously be a very busy 9 days. But we'll wait and see. I would expect I'll be doing a minimum of 5, and I think the one that's up in the air still at the moment is the 50. But I definitely want to have a crack at it, so we'll see.
Of course, splash and dash. That is pretty incredible, 6 events. Just want to cast your mind back to 2021, your first Olympics. Weird times during COVID, so just talk to me a bit about what it was like being at the biggest meet there is in swimming and having no crowd, and then obviously after that going on to win the 4x2 and become Olympic champion.
Yeah, it was unique to say the least. I think it was very strange. I mean, so we had a holding camp in Yokohama in Japan, then moved into the Olympic Village in Tokyo, and the first training session we had at the venue, the racing venue, was was really quite surreal, because I walked out onto poolside and you come through the cool room and there's like a big maze behind the scenes, and you walk through and you finally get onto poolside and there's just this enormous arena. I think it seated like 30,000 people, which, as you know, for swimming is just unheard of. So you walk out, stunning, lights amazing, the whole thing looks incredible, but then you look out at these enormous stands, and then there was that moment of like realization that it's just going to be empty, which is it was really strange, it was really weird, but I don't think it took away from just how special that meet was. Seeing the Olympic rings everywhere, that's the kind of thing that you dream of from a very young age, so to be able to get in there and race in that arena was just incredible. And as you said, to be able to win gold on that 4x2 was, made it even more special. So yeah, it was quite an experience.
And then going into that race, we knew you guys were strong sort of contenders for that gold. Was it like, did you always have that feeling down that, we got this, or was it a bit of like, we got to really go for it? And was it a surprise almost, or were you pretty like, we can do this? Yeah,
it's one of those. I think that because we've got such sort of pedigree in the 200 freestyle in Britain, there is a lot of like expectation on us to just go in and win that 4x2 every time. And I think sometimes it's underestimated just how good the rest of the world is at that event. I think people look at it and think, because we've got, Olympic champion, Olympic silver medalist, world champion, another world champion, we should easily go in and blitz it. But then you've got guys all around the world that just pull out these unbelievable splits that makes it really challenging. So, there is a lot of pressure on it. We never go into those races expecting an easy win. But I think we were definitely going in confident. We'd seen Duncan and Dino had just won the individual gold and silver the day before. And so we were like, we're in a great place. And I think by the time that I was the third leg of the race, by the time I got to the end of that 200 and touched the wall, handing over to Duncan, I think I'd pulled about a 2-second lead on the Americans, who were in second place. So when I handed over to Duncan, knowing that we had that lead, I was like, there's no way we don't win this now. With a guy of like his caliber going in after me, it was then just about, we've won it, are we going to get the world record or not? And obviously we didn't quite. But.
Like few 100s, but is that something that you guys are collectively going for this year in Paris?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've been the second fastest team in history on it, 2 100s behind the world record. And if you added all of our PBs together and our fastest splits together, we'd be about 3 seconds under it. So it's one of those, we need all four of us like on it on the day, which is obviously difficult because a lot of us have really busy schedules throughout the meet where we're racing, back to back to back to back to back. So, it makes it difficult to all be on it perfectly at the same time. But it's definitely something we want and something we're kind of trying to. We'd like to rectify that and make that right from Tokyo.
Of course, yeah. Because I'm sure. The priority was to win, and that's what happened. But obviously, I bet there was a small part of you that was like, we wanted that world record. So this summer, another chance. I'll look out for that, of course. Last year, 2023 world champion, individual as well. Lane 2, I think it was. Yeah. So just talk to me a bit about that race in itself, and then also sort of just what it meant afterwards. I think that's the main thing, and how it felt to stand up on number one in the podium.
Yeah, so it was a really interesting race. It didn't pan out how we kind of expected it to. So I was in the lane next to a Korean guy called Sungwoo Hwang, and he's a sort of notorious for going out really fast in those races. So the plan was kind of to get in and kind of surf the wave that the kind of bow wave that swimmers create. You'll know, but maybe the viewers won't. But so you kind of create a little bow wave behind you, and if you get onto the lane rope of the person who's creating it, you can almost get pulled along a little bit. So the plan was to get in and just ride the wave for about 125 meters, make the move into the final turn, and then go on the last 50. And then it turned out he wasn't the one who went out fast. The guy in the lane next to him did. So he then did exactly what my plan was, leaving me kind of in the middle of nowhere. I was kind of in no man's land. There was nobody around really. So the plan kind of went out the window, and it was like, right, now I've just got to improvise here. So I kind of,
exactly. I just want to quickly jump in because I think I heard on Brett Hawke's podcast, shout out Brett Hawke, you were talking about sort of your racing tactic and how you have a rough plan, but you have to be adaptive as well. And I think that's something that only someone with a high swimming IQ can do. And I think we saw that because, as you said, it wasn't how you expected it to pan out, but you still managed to pull it together and hit them with a Matt Richards special on the last 50. So I just thought that was an interesting comment that I wanted to build upon.
Yeah, exactly. No, absolutely. I think that's the thing. We always go into the races, especially the 200 free, where you can be swum so many ways. We kind of go in with a plan A, B, C, D, E, all the way down the alphabet. There's so many ways we could go about swimming it, and there's always the ideal way, which we'd like it to look like. But I can't control the other 7 guys in the race. And so if they do something that maybe we didn't want them to do or weren't expecting them to do, then, that could kind of throw plan A out the window, and you've got to make a decision. So yeah, what ended up happening was the guy in lane 4 went out like an absolute train, like one of the fastest splits in history to 150 meters. So the guys either side him were riding his wave, and then me and Tom Dean were outside of them, so we were both kind of in an awkward position. But yeah, the plan then, I got into the final turn, still what I thought was in the race, because I was breathing the wrong way down the third 50. Came off the last wall and went quite deep to have a look under to see where everyone was, and saw that Popovici in lane 4 was like 5 meters ahead, and I was like, oh god, this is going to be a long 50. But yeah, then just really hammered it home on the last 50 and managed to get my hand on the wall first. So yeah, very special.
Yeah, you definitely did hammer that 50 home, and I think it was just about 10 or 5 to go. You could just about pick that you were going to get there first. So that was incredible. And then also just what did it mean? I think like sum up the emotions in touching the wall first and being world champion.
Yeah, I think it was almost a moment of relief. Because I'd always had that self-belief in myself that I was good enough to do that and to be at that level. But obviously, until you've done it, you're still going to question yourself a little bit. And so when I got my hand on the wall and I looked around and saw that I'd won it, that was a lot of emotions kind of flood you at that point, because, there's relief, there's excitement, there's happiness, but then at the same time, I knew I was starting the 100 freestyle the next morning, so I was straight back into another race. So it was like trying to accept that, acknowledge those emotions almost, but then push them to one side until the job was done at the end of the week, and then I could really reflect on the experience I just had.
Yeah, that's really professional, and that's not easy to do. Like when you've got that, that amazing sensation of winning and having to reset and go again in the 100 free, which did you then go on to get a British record as well?
Yeah.
There you go. So yeah, that's pretty special. And just quickly, sort of on that relief kind of aspect, you've got to go heats, semis and finals, it takes its toll. What do you do sort of in between them? And especially the morning after the semi-final, do you still get back in preparation for the final? And how do you approach going heats, semis and finals?
Yeah, I think a lot of sleeping and a lot of eating is always a classic. But yeah, usually what I'll do is the next morning, as you say, I'll get in and still come in for a small sort of loosen in the pool. So maybe 500 meters to 1,000 meters in the pool, which, to us guys is, it's just a little get your toes wet really. But yeah, that's kind of the plan in the morning, and then in between the heat and the semi, usually I like to have a nap in between, and try and just then you can almost wake up and feel like it's a new day and treat that semi as if it's a completely new swim, a new day, and it kind of helps to break up the meet a little bit like that. You almost feel like you've got more days of racing than you do. So yeah, that's kind of how I try and approach it. But obviously everyone's different.
Of course, yeah, that's interesting, because I haven't had many meets where I've had to go heat, semis, finals, so I only ever heats and finals. So that's interesting. I think I'm sort of the same, not that I'm at the same level as you, of course.
Not yet, but you maybe we'll wait and see.
Yeah, we'll see, hopefully. But yeah, I definitely find like napping and just eating, I think that sums it up pretty well. Is there, do you ever feel a bit sort of stressed or nervous, or are you pretty good? I imagine you're so experienced that you probably know how to control these things, and you've got things in place just to keep your mind sort of where it needs to be.
Yeah, totally. Everyone gets nervous. I still get nervous. I think anybody that tells you they don't is just lying. We all get nervous, but I think, like you say, as you get more used to it, you understand how those nerves work for you. And for me, I kind of acknowledge those as a good thing, and it shows that I'm in the right place. I'm ready to go. But fundamentally, I always kind of just ground myself on, the fact that I just enjoy what I'm doing. I love the racing. I enjoy getting in the arena and putting myself up against the best. So I think that really helps to sort of settle those nerves when you stop thinking about the outcome and stop thinking about trying to win and just enjoy the process of the racing. I always find that really helps to kind of settle that and calm that down.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I think that'll help me and obviously the people listening back home as well. Obviously, we've spoken about your success. There's a plethora of it. Just want to sort of take it back a little bit. Even as an age grouper, I remember when I was too young to go to nationals, I'd see you racking up a bunch of golds, and then European juniors as well. European junior champ, was it the 100 in Kazan?
Yeah, the 100, yeah.
There you go. So from an outsider's perspective, it looks like your success to the top has been quite linear. But I think that would be quite ignorant for us to think, especially with the nature of swimming and how relentless it is. So I was wondering if you could talk about any points in your career where maybe you've struggled or had to deal with disappointment. I acknowledge it's not the easiest thing to, make yourself vulnerable in front of the public eye, but I think it would help a lot of people out there.
Totally. I mean, I'm always really open about talking about this because I think it is something that's important and maybe doesn't get talked about enough. Like you say, from the people at the top level of sport, a lot of the time we put on this front, and try and make it look like everything's sunshine and rainbows, and it's really not. Sport's hard, life's hard. It's always going to be. That's what makes the good moments so great. But yeah, I mean, I've had moments. Post Olympics 2021. A lot of people talk about Olympic blues. When you get back from the Olympics, you have this feeling of like you've been on this massive high, and then you just really drop back down to rock bottom, and you're like, well, what now? And that coupled with the 2021-22 season, I was swimming awful. I was swimming really badly. We changed the way I was training, changed my program, and so I was 3 or 4 seconds slower than I was the year before. And to me, I was like, what is going on? Like, why is this happening? Why am I feeling like this? Why am I swimming so slow? What's going on? And I definitely had moments where I was questioning whether or not I'd reached my peak, and that was it for me. I was racing in Budapest in December of 2021 at the International Swimming League. And I remember one of the evenings, left the pool, having swum awful again, left the pool, and I remember walking home in the rain rather than getting the bus with the team. I walked back to the hotel in the rain on the phone to my mum in tears, because I was like, am I done? Have I reached my peak? Is this me in the sport? Is this me finished? And so everyone has those moments, and I think people don't talk about it enough, but it's okay to have those moments. It's okay to question yourself. It's okay to have doubts. All of those things, they're never going to go away. I think you learn how to deal with them better. And maybe that voice in your head gets a bit quieter as you go on, So yeah, I think I've had lots of moments in my career where, things haven't gone my way and things haven't gone right. And, like I said, that's what makes the good moments so special. If you didn't have the bad times, then it wouldn't really be so special to have the good ones.
Yeah, I think that's really special to hear as well, considering where you are now, since then, world champion. So I think, the people out there as well as myself are quite inspired by that. And yeah, to have that turnaround of questioning your place in the sport to, being where you are now that's a great story. So I appreciate you sharing that as well, because it's not always the easiest thing to talk about. I was with Ruben the other day, who's our sports psychologist. He's great. And he sat me down and he asked me quite a simple question. And at first I thought, oh, well, that's pretty easy. But then I thought about it a bit more. So, Matthew Richards, why do you swim?
It's a great question. Yeah. I think that's one of those questions where it can kind of change a lot through your career. And I think you can have lots of different answers as you go on through your career. But I think for me, the fundamental answer to that is because I love it. And that's the answer I'll always end up coming back to, no matter what point you ask me. If you'd have asked me in 2021, when I thought that was me done and I thought I was finished in the sport, the reason why I was still going and still trying was because I love it. If you asked me straight after winning World Championship gold last year, again, the reason why I then get up and race the next morning is because I love it. So that's fundamentally, that's why I do it. I just truly love the process. I love the training. I love the racing. I love the lifestyle that, the discipline that comes with it. And that's all part and parcel of what I think gives me that love for the water. So that's the reason why I do it. And I think that's the reason why, I'm only 21. I'm still young in the sport. I've got a long way to go yet. And, I plan on being in the sport 10 plus years yet. So that's why I think I have that longer term vision of wanting to be here for so long, because I'm just like, I don't see myself wanting to not carry on,
Yeah, I think that's probably the most important thing and the best thing about wanting to swim is just because you love it. Yeah. And I think, when you love something, you'll eventually find success in doing it. So,
yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. It's a great question.
No, it's good. I got one more that Ruben also asked me, and he said, who do you swim for? I'll share what I said first. Initially, I was like, I swim for myself because no one else puts pressure on me to do what I do. I do everything on my own accord, which is true. But then I sat there and I thought about it a bit more, and I was like, I also swim a bit for KP, my coach, and Ryan, just because of how much they put into training us and all of the research they do. And obviously a bit of me also swims for my family and trying to fly the Graham name as high as I can. Yeah. But just wanted to know why do you swim? And who do you swim for?
Yeah. I think I'll probably give you a very similar answer. I think again the simplest terms myself. That's the reason why I got into the sport, again, because I love it. And so in that aspect, it is almost a selfish answer of, well, because I love it, that's why I do it. And I swim for myself in that aspect. But like you say, I completely agree. I swim for Ryan, my coach. I swim for my parents, my grandparents, who have sacrificed so much to help me get to here. I swim for my fiance Emily, and hopefully the future family that we'll have. Now I'm a professional in the sport. The money that I earn from it to provide for them, and hopefully be able to give them the kind of lifestyle I want them to be able to have. So there's a lot of answers to it, and then on top of all of that, when you get out to the Olympic Games, you're swimming for something bigger than yourself. You're swimming for the country. You're swimming for Britain. You're swimming for that youngster that could be sat at home watching the telly that could then be inspired by you to go on their own journey in sport. So there's lots of people who you swim for. I think, like you say, it is the more you think about it, probably the more answers you could give.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Well, I think that's really powerful, and you sort of touched on it there. But if you could go back and tell 14-year-old Matt Richards something, like, especially with what you know now, or to be honest, any emerging athlete, what advice would you give them, or what would you say to them?
Dream big. That's probably what I'd say. Obviously, enjoying it is really important. I do think that's the key to long-term success. But I think fundamentally, you just got to dream big. You set yourself a massive goal that even you think is a little bit out of reach. And then put the systems in place to figure out how you're going to get there. Because if you do that, even if you don't quite achieve that goal, likelihood is you're going to do something pretty incredible along the way. And every year I'll sit down at the start of the season and set a goal for that season. Usually that goal is ridiculously difficult. And I don't think I've ever actually nailed it exactly as I wanted to. Last year at Worlds, obviously I won the 200 freestyle. I wanted to win the 100 freestyle the next day. I missed the podium by 2 100ths. So I didn't quite get that goal, but in the process still ended up becoming a world champion. So that's the thing for me. I think is just never let other people or society sort of tell you that you can't do something. Dream big and then go and make it happen.
Yeah, well, I think that will mean a lot to everyone out there and me as well. And Matt and I had a brief conversation before the podcast. We spoke a bit about golf. So this brings me on to my question of what do you do sort of away from the pool just to reset? Because obviously, as we both know, swimming's a pretty intense sport. So I imagine golf is one of them, but you can build upon that. But also, what else do you do to just relax, and then so that when you walk onto poolside for your next session, you feel sort of refreshed?
Yeah, I think fundamentally I'm quite a simple person. I love spending time with my family. That's something that I always have done. I just love being around my loved ones. And that's both my parents, grandparents, my fiance, her family, her extended family. So I'm very lucky. I've got an amazing support network around me. I've got some incredible people that are always in my corner. And so just spending time with them, whether it be going for a coffee or go for a meal, or even just sitting down and having a conversation, that's always kind of fulfills me outside the pool. On top of that, like you say, I try and play golf. I'm still not very good yet. I've only really gotten into it in the last year or so, but I'm really enjoying it. I think it's very different to swimming, where obviously swimming is very physical and very mentally demanding in that you've got to kind of push the pain aside to be able to get to where you want to go. Whereas golf's the complete opposite. It's still very mental, but it's very like, you just got to concentrate. And I find that really hard because my mind's always moving at a million miles an hour, and I'm there like trying to hit the ball, and then I'll hear a dog bark, and then I'm on my backswing and I've lost concentration. But I like the challenge of it in the fact it's a different kind of mental challenge for me. But yeah, so I'll keep trying. Hopefully one day I'll be half decent.
Yeah, I could probably do with a few tips as well. Swimming and golf, two very different sports. My sort of second to last big question, I've got a few quick fire questions at the end as well. Just wanted to ask you a bit about your relationship with Ryan, and obviously you moved from Bath to train here. So just talk to me a bit about sort of how you met, and sort of what do you think of him, and what he sort of helped you with.
Yeah, I think when so as I mentioned earlier in the podcast, I think 2022 season for me was really difficult. The summer of 2022, I had 3 major meets in a row. So I had the World Championships in Budapest, straight into then the Commonwealth Games in Birmingham, and then the European Championships in Rome. So they were all like a couple of weeks apart. So I was racing out in Budapest at the World Championships, And I'd already spoken with Ryan because I was already kind of planning to move to him at the end of that season. And at the World Championships, it just wasn't clicking, it wasn't working. And so I spoke to Ryan, and then as soon as I got back from the World Championships, I moved then, which was quite controversial in the swimming world to make a move mid-season. But I moved then and immediately started getting quicker, even in a span of a couple of weeks.
Yeah, and I remember. And it's sort of like a bit of a leap of faith as well, because it's not like this is an established performance program. I mean, the Millfield swimming history is rich with success, but obviously it's another thing coming as, you know, someone who's, like someone who's no longer at school. But it's obviously paid off for you.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
And from my perspective, it looks like you guys have a great dynamic going on.
Yeah, we really do. I think, you know, from the first time I sat down with him and sort of had a chat, I was planning on leaving Bath and I didn't know where I wanted to go yet. I sat down for a coffee with Ryan and obviously this was one of the options of the places I was thinking about. We spoke for probably 2 hours and just talked purely about swimming. And it was, you know, really in depth about the science behind what we do, the psychology behind what we do. You know, some of the questions you've asked, you know, the why for me, why do I do it? Likewise, why does he do what he does? And I felt like by the end of that conversation, I just knew that we were going to work really well together because I really like and really work well knowing the reason why I'm doing things. And I find when I know why I'm doing something, I can give 101%. And it always winds me up when I hear people say that because I'm like, it's no such thing. But, you know, you get the metaphor. I can give it absolutely everything I've got. Whereas when I'm not 100% sure why I'm doing it, I can't buy into it as well. And I've always found with Ryan, there's never a question that he either doesn't have the answer to now or won't be able to go out and find the answer to. You know, and that for me is all I could ask for from a coach. And when he's all in, you know, it's really easy for me to be all in too. So yeah, that dynamic's really special. Absolutely.
And Ryan was my coach last year. This year, sometimes strength and sometimes don't. But I completely agree, and just super knowledgeable as well. Like he understands the sport so well, and he's, you know, one of the best coaches in the world. So that is pretty special. Now, last big question. Obviously, we've spoken about your success. We've spoken about the past. I want to look ahead to the future. What are your goals for Paris and beyond? You know, we'll start with Paris first, and then you know, what life might be like even after swimming.
Yeah, I think for me this summer, as we said, I could have as many as 6 events. I'd be lying to you if I said I was ever going to go into a race with a goal of anything but winning it. You know, so the goal is to go into all of those races and do everything I can to try and win them. Does that mean I'm going to come home with 6 golds? Probably not. You know, that'll be a very tall ask, but who knows? You know, and like I said earlier, I'm going to dream big. I'm going to keep my sort of perspective open, not close off any options, and just see what happens. And I think when I get out there and like I said, just enjoy all the races, you know, and that's when I'm in my happy place. That's when I'm at my best, you know, and I'll give it everything, and who knows what that could look like. But yeah, I'd definitely like to build on that sort of Olympic medal tally from 2021.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, dream big, as you said. And I mean, it's still, you know, you want to stay in the sport for a long while, and you probably haven't even given it much thought. But, you know, have you got any unfinished business away from the pool that you maybe want to explore in the future, or is that still something you're working out, you know, as you grow? I
think it's kind of something that, like, it kind of develops and grows as you go through the sport. So I think something that's quite important to me while I'm swimming is to put things in place for after swimming, so that I don't get to the end of my career and go, oh God, what do I do now? You know, I want to be able to finish my career and have something to move straight into. You know, I've definitely got a few options for that. You know, like I said earlier, I plan on being in the sport for 10 plus years yet, but you never know. I could, you know, have an injury tomorrow that means I never swim again. So, you know, it's good to have those options. I think I'll probably end up some way or another in the sort of business world. I find that kind of world really interesting. And I think there's a lot of parallels between the business world and the sporting world. So I think that's something that really interests me. But I don't think I'll ever be able to be far away from water. So, you know, that will probably be something involved in the pool in some way. But as of right now, I don't know exactly. But who knows? I could be a PGA pro by then.
Maybe, exactly. All right. Well, thank you very much. Just going to move on to some fun quick fire questions. But you don't have to give long answers at all for them. Hardest event in swimming?
I would say 2 fly, just because I don't think I'd finish one.
Yeah, no, same. I was thinking 2 fly or 4 a.m.
Yeah, those are the go-tos, aren't
Yeah,
they?
I think so. Next one is, if you didn't swim, what sport would you like to do?
I loved rugby when I was younger. Yeah, I really enjoyed rugby when I was younger, so I'd like to think probably rugby.
Are you more of a rugby than football person?
Yeah, definitely. I didn't really play any football growing up, but all my family are Welsh, so that kind of explains why, doesn't it?
Yeah. No, I respect that for sure. I played a lot of rugby as well here, up until sort of under 15 as well, and then chose swimming. So yeah, mutual respect there.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you could meet any athlete, past and present, who would it be?
Oh, that's a tough one. That's really tough.
Yeah, I know. Sort of springing that one on you a bit.
Yeah. An obvious answer is Phelps. Obviously, he's somebody that growing up for me was a huge inspiration. So that's a very obvious answer. I think I would love to sit down and talk to LeBron James. I'd love to sit down and have dinner with him, just because I think to have done what he's done in the sport for so long, there's some knowledge there that I would love to be able to extract to then use myself in my sport. So I would probably say LeBron, but I think I would also love to sit down with Phelps as well. So.
Yeah. No, those are 2 very good answers. I thought about this myself. I'd love to meet Ian Thorpe one day. But yeah, again, those 2 answers are pretty good as well. Funniest teammate, can't say me, of course, because I know you would have said me.
Well, I would have done. Absolutely, mate. Absolutely. It's a tough one, that.
Yeah, I think there are a few characters.
There are. We've got a great little group. I think Cam Curl can be very funny. He has some cracking one-liners every now and again. But I think I'd probably say Tom Watkin. I think he's funny in that he just does funny things. Do you know what I mean? He doesn't necessarily say anything particularly funny, but there are times you just look over at him, you're like, what are you doing? It just makes you laugh. But yeah, so I'd probably say one of those 2.
No, that's good. And last 2, do you have a favourite music genre or artists? And also, do you listen to music before races?
Yeah, I do. I do sometimes. I think I kind of have to rein it in sometimes, because I almost listen to music and I end up so pumped up that I'm like going out for a swimming race, and you look at me like I'm about to step in a boxing ring with Mike Tyson, and it's like you just need to calm down a bit. It's not that serious, but I'd probably say favourite genre. I do like a bit of like UK rap. Favourite artist, probably Dave. I do love a bit of Dave's music. Yeah,
that's good. And final question: do you have a favourite film or TV series that?
I think film. I've always loved The Lion King. I know it's probably a random one, but I've always loved that. But I think Interstellar is a great film as well.
Absolutely.
I watched it when I was younger and didn't really understand it all that well, and then watched it again like a year or 2 ago, and kind of understood the concepts behind it a bit more, and I was like, wow, this is incredible. And then favourite series, that's tough. I think Game of Thrones is brilliant, Yellowstone is brilliant, Power is brilliant. So there's some great series out there. I'd say that's my top 3, but I couldn't. It's like picking between your babies. I couldn't pick. So
sounds like I've got a bit of watching to do, because a couple of them. But yeah, no, that's awesome. All right, well, that concludes everything. So Matt, thank you so much for coming on. It's been an honour to have you, and the whole Millfield community, and in fact the whole country will be supporting you in Paris. So best of luck, and thanks again for coming on.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you.